It started with an invitation. A simple, elegant card slipped under my apartment door one evening, its edges gilded with gold, and my name handwritten in a looping, unfamiliar script. You are cordially invited to the annual Midnight Gala. No address, no RSVP, just a date and time this Saturday at midnight. I had no idea who sent it. None of my friends admitted to knowing anything about it, and the handwriting didn't match anyone I knew. Still, something about the card drew me in. Craftsmanship was impeccable, the kind you'd associate with a bygone era of elegance. And besides, curiosity always got the better of me. Saturday night came, and I dressed in my best, a sleek black dress and heels, understated but classic. Midnight was an unusual time for a party, but something about it felt right. The streets were eerily quiet as I left my apartment, clutching the invitation in my hand. When I stepped outside, I realized I had no idea where to go. But before I could even think to head back inside, a sleek, black car pulled up to the curb. Its windows were tinted, and the driver, an older man in a perfectly tailored suit, stepped out and opened the door for me. "Miss," he said, his voice calm and steady. "We've been expecting you." The car ride was unnervingly silent. The driver didn't answer my questions, simply giving polite nods through the rearview mirror. After what felt like an eternity, the car slowed and turned down a long, tree-lined driveway. The mansion came into view, bathed in pale moonlight. It was enormous, the kind of place you'd expect to see in period dramas or haunted house tours. Tall windows glowed warmly from within, and the sound of soft music drifted through the air. The driver opened the door for me, and as I stepped out, I noticed other guests arriving. They were all impeccably dressed, their outfits reminiscent of 1920s fashion, tailcoats, flapper dresses, feather headbands. I felt strangely underdressed, though no one seemed to pay me much attention. At the grand entrance, a man in a crimson suit greeted me, his smile unnervingly wide. "Welcome to the Midnight Gala," he said, bowing slightly. He glanced at the card in my hand and nodded. "Right this way, Miss Ellie," I offered hesitantly. "Miss Ellie," he said, as if savoring the name. "We've been waiting for you." The ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the polished marble floor. Tables were draped in rich velvet, and a string quartet played softly in the corner. Guests milled about, sipping champagne from crystal flutes, their laughter light and melodic. I felt out of place, but no one seemed to mind my presence. A waiter appeared at my side, offering me a glass of champagne. I accepted, taking a sip to steady my nerves. It was sweet and fizzy, with a strange metallic tang that lingered on my tongue. As I wandered through the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The guests were too perfect. Their faces were smooth and flawless, their movements graceful to the point of seeming choreographed. Every smile felt just a little too wide, every laugh a touch too rehearsed. "First time here," a voice asked, pulling me from my thoughts. I turned to see a man in a sharp black suit, his dark hair slicked back. He was handsome, but there was something predatory in his gaze. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "How did you know?" He chuckled. "You have that look, like you're not sure if this is real or a dream." I laughed nervously. "Something like that. Do you come here often?" His smile faltered for a split second, so quick I almost missed it. "More often than I'd like," he said cryptically. "Be careful tonight, Ollie." Before I could ask what he meant, he disappeared into the crowd. At the stroke of midnight, the music shifted. The string quartet began playing a hauntingly beautiful waltz, and the guests moved to the center of the room. "Join us," someone whispered behind me. I turned to see the man in the crimson suit, his hand extended. Before I could protest, he led me onto the dance floor. The other guests parted to make room, their eyes fixed on me with unnerving intensity. "I'm not much of a dancer," I stammered. He smiled, his grip on my hand tightening. "Don't worry, you'll learn." The moment we began to move, the world tilted. The music swelled, the chandeliers blurred, and the room seemed to stretch and warp. I felt lightheaded, as if I were floating, but I couldn't stop. His movements guided mine, and the floor beneath my feet seemed to pulse, alive and unsteady. As we danced, I caught glimpses of the other guests. Their faces were changing. Smiles stretched too wide, eyes gleamed too brightly, and their skin, it shimmered like glass. I stumbled as the waltz ended, breaking free of the man's grip. My head spun, and the room around me seemed darker, the air heavier. "Thank you for the dance," he said, his smile razor sharp. I backed away, my heart pounding. The other guests were watching me now, their perfect faces cracking, revealing something grotesque beneath. I turned and ran, pushing past the crowd and into a long hallway. The music grew fainter, replaced by whispers that slithered through the air. "Ellie, stay. The hallway stretched endlessly, the doors on either side locked tight. My chest heaved as panic set in. Finally, I found a staircase and bolted down it, emerging into a dark, stone-walled cellar. At the center of the room was a massive mirror, its surface rippling like water. Figures moved within it, their faces twisted with fear and desperation. I stepped closer, my reflection wavering. It wasn't just me in the mirror. Behind me, the guests were coming, their once human forms dissolving into shadowy, skeletal shapes. "Join us," they whispered. "It's your turn." I didn't think. I ran for the mirror, hoping it would lead somewhere, anywhere else. The moment I touched its surface, icy cold enveloped me. I felt myself falling, my body twisting and contorting as the whispers grew deafening. When I woke, I was back in my apartment, the invitation clutched in my hand. The clock on the wall read 6 a.m. I thought it was over. I thought I was safe. But every night since, I hear the music. Faint at first, then louder, until it fills my apartment. The invitation sits on my nightstand, no matter how many times I try to throw it away. And last night, when I looked in the mirror, my reflection smiled before I did. They're waiting for me. And sooner or later, I think I'll have to go back.